Okay, so we're 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. This is a great thing to remind and remember what these are. These are just laws that are realities. These are just realities of leadership that John Maxwell is trying to unpack for us. So this week it is the law of respect. So the law of respect, and what it says is people naturally follow leaders better than themselves. Okay, so people naturally follow leaders better than themselves. Okay, and what's really important to distinguish when we say that is what we don't mean is that they are better people, because what that starts to infer is that there's these classes of people and you're better than me. But what we mean is they might just be better at being a leader. Okay, so you got to sort of compartmentalize when you say better, right? It's kind of like if I said, well, you're a better baseball player, right? But you just practice more, you've been doing it longer, you have more reps under your belt, right? We have to say that to our kids all the time. When they get mad if they're not, Kate can't hit the shot the first time, she's like, I'm so mad. I said, well, it takes a lot of reps to become really, really good, just like you are now at volleyball. So that's what we mean when we say better, leader, essentially. And he says this proverb that I like. He says, he that thinketh and leadeth nobody is following him is only taking a walk, right? So basically saying if you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. There's really not leadership that's going on in your walk, essentially. And when he says respect, I want you guys to think about when you hear respect, respect is something that's earned, okay? And it's earned on difficult ground, typically. So if you really want to respect somebody, then you're generally going to be doing it on difficult ground. So you'll usually go, gosh, that person's been through a lot of things, and managed difficult situations. And so that typically will elevate your respect for that person as they go through that. Respect does not come quick, okay, and respect does not come easy. That it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort. Remember we talked about the law of process. There is no fast way to grow your character. It would be nice if you could microwave that, but it's a crock pot situation. Okay. Now, I've heard this before, and I know you guys have too, of this concept of I demand respect. Okay? I demand respect. And the reality is you can't demand respect. It's just, you can say you demand respect. Even as a parent, you could find yourself, demand respect. And the reality is you can't. Respect is earned, and it is a process that you have to go through. And again, it's on difficult ground. When you go through difficult times, which you will and have, and will continue to, life just works that way. It's be nice if I didn't have all these gray hairs of situations. It just happens. I'm going through some stuff now even. But the difficult ground, John says, separates the players versus the pretenders. Okay. So if, really as a leader, I've gone through recessions, difficult situations, lawsuits, right? Like all these different things, and my character got tested, through it to say, okay, well, are you gonna screw them? Or are you gonna try to, what are you gonna do? And, thankfully, sort of version 2.0 Dave was like, no, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to make the right decision, even though it's tough to do. And so that's part of the separation, is where everybody kind of starts off saying the right thing, but when the waves come tumbling in, you start to find out, as Warren Buffett says, who's wearing pants or no pants when the tide goes out.
That's right.
And so when you stay in the game, when everybody's running away, we're hearing that even now. People, I'm just getting out of this, or I'm on the sidelines, or I'm not going to do anything. Or I'm golfing all the time now, or I'm taking off, or I'm, so it's just and usually what happens is that 80 to 90% of the people are running that direction, where the 20 to 10% of people are staying and working through it and seeing it and solving problems. And then that's the people that end up getting the respect, because they hung out and didn't throw the towel in when everybody just kind of tossed the towel in. Okay. I remember we've had some couples that have come to us a few times and saying it's too hard. This marriage is just, I don't like it. I'm not happy. And I just want to throw the towel in. I said, well, that's marriage, and it's tough, and you got to kind of hang in there and work through it. And, that's what's going to make it sweeter.
Yeah.
If you guys are both committed to building something with some value to it. He basically says, you love someone when no one else was loving someone, you did it. Okay. That's the true test of character, is when you start to value people and cared about them when no one else would. You stand up for principles when you were the only person that stood up. Kate and I had that discussion this weekend. I said, 90% of the people are always going to run towards non-thinking, and they just do things. And I said, you're going to be tempted to run that direction without stopping and asking questions. Why are you thinking that way? Like, why does that make sense? Okay. And I said, ideas have consequences. That's what I told her. I said, think about Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
I said that all came about based upon an idea that people were based on classes of people, and was survival of the fittest. And so if I could eliminate this class of people and just get what we would consider the optimal race, then that would be the best thing for society.
Yeah.
Well, the end result of that was 6 million Jews getting murdered, right? So I just said ideas have consequences. And I could make a list of them, right? So that's my own journey as within this industry. There were so many situations where people told me, I physically opened my mouth and said to the bank, I said, I'm going to pay you back. I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember when one of the guys that I was working with said to me, he said, we were working through this for months, just months, negotiating back and forth, really tough time. It was very depressing, and just, everybody's losing their shorts. And I remember we were getting close, and I actually got the building under contract. And I called him one day. He wasn't returning my calls. What's going on? He's usually pretty responsive. And I remember that I got a phone call from a new guy, and he said he's no longer here. I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, he got laid off or whatever. And I'm like, oh crap. My building's under contract. I've been negotiating with this guy for months. And I said, well, can you pull up the notes that he had? And they said, he doesn't have any notes. There's nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now, thankfully, I kept all my notes, but the guy who I was dealing with, he said, you better pay all this money back when we close. And I said, well, I've been negotiating that I can't. I physically don't have the money. I said, I'd pay you back over time. I told you that. And this is what we
Yeah.
negotiated. And he goes, well, that's not enough. And he said, oh, by the way, that building you're under contract on, it's too low. And I said, well, let me tell you something right now. And I said, yeah, I don't know, you don't know Arizona right now. I said, the price I got under contract, which by the way is cash, I said, is the highest price you'll get in this market. I promise. And he goes, well, you better get an appraisal. I said, you better hurry up. So he gets an appraisal, calls me back and says, you're right. I said, yes, I told you that.
Wow.
I said, I have every vested interest to get the highest price.
Mhm.
I said, I'm gonna still owe you $350,000 even with this. So I said, trust me, I'm motivated. And so long story short, we closed the deal. I'm going to go rent this little dinky ratty place for like, I don't know, it was $200 a month or something.
Wow.
And I remember I go to Home Depot because I'm gonna fix a couple things in it because it's this rowdy place. And I swipe my card and it's like decline. I'm like, why is it declined? And I call up Ironstone Bank and all of a sudden they said, you have $0 in your account. I'm like, what?
No.
And so what I found out they'd done, they'd swiped everything out of my account.
Oh, they like offset. Jeez.
Okay. And so I called the guy up and he said, too bad. And so
Wow.
at that moment in time, I remember just going home and I was dating Jill at the time. And I literally, came in and we were sitting down. And I just broke down in tears, and she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I said, well, here's what's going on. And so that was kind of this pinnacle moment where I remember somebody said to me, they said, screw them, file bankruptcy, wipe all the debt out, and then you'll be scotch-free, And I remember just wrestling around with that. And I finally just told Jill, I said, I can't do it. I said, I told them I'd pay him back, and that's what I need to do. And I said, it's irrespective of what they did to me,
Yeah.
which was absolutely wrong. I
Mhm.
said, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My decisions are not based upon what they do. It's based upon what I know is right to do. And so that was kind of a pinnacle moment I think for the firm and for us personally, just to say, it doesn't matter. We're going to stay firm to our character, what we believe is right, and still pay this off. We believe that God will honor that. And he did, 2013, middle of 2013, I got a call from them. I'd been making payments every month religiously. It wasn't a lot of money. It was $70. And the guy ended up negotiating with me and we paid it off, so.
Awesome.
So my point of that is not to tout me. The point is the principle of like, when you get into tough times, that's where you're going to earn respect.
Yep.
That's where you will learn your character in those moments. And, the better leader you become, the more respect you have, the better people you attract to yourself, essentially.
True.
So that's kind of this concept, but I'd love to hear from you guys as to, and what he says is you attract who you are. So what do you think about that? You attract who you are, because people always say, well, these are the people that I want in my life. And my response is, well, then is that the person you are? Because if that's the person you are, you will. If it's not, you won't, because they don't want to be around that, right? So I'd love to just get your thoughts, perspectives, comments on this notion of the law of respect, which is it's a law. Sure, it's how it functions. So
Yeah, I think it's like kind of the notion of like you're remembered from your weakest point.
Yeah.
Like how do you come back, and how do you feel like you handle the tough situations? Or I think when things are hard, we're less likely to be as rational as we'd like to be when things are good. So I think it's like you find the true personality of someone, the true character, the true ethics when things are tough.
Yeah.
And in your situation, I mean, you definitely had a hard time. You were losing everything. You had nothing left. And I think it's actually even more respect for Jill, because she put up with that too.
She did.
And she could have easily
100%.
been like, see you, David.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not really a
100%.
fan of a guy
Yeah.
that's a loser, you know, so,
Oh, 100%.
you know,
Yeah,
so,
it is.
so I think it's a testament not only to you, but also Jill's leadership, which
100%.
she could have easily just.
Yeah.
She could have, yeah. She was getting into a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she knew it, so she could have easily ran away, but she didn't.
Absolutely.
So I think you did right, Jill did right, and then
100%.
now it's like it all came together full
Yeah,
circle. Where
yeah.
now it's, you know, it's a beautiful thing. So.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it does. When things are tough, that's when you find the real version of someone. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, we've all been in tough situations, and I can't say I've ever been in a situation that tough,
Sure.
but you know, everyone has a different type of tough.
Yeah.
And so that's when the real character does come out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good law to remember. And it is a law of leadership.
Yeah.
You want to be a good leader, you will go through tough times. That is your classroom.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just think about, that's my classroom. So I remember a guy said to me one time, he was a pastor, and he was going to divorce his wife. And he said, because he goes, she's difficult, da da da. He says, I need to work on my ministry. And I looked at him and I said, she is your ministry. He's like, what? And I said, yeah. I go, she's your ministry. I said, what are you talking about? I said, where do you think you grow as a leader? Like, it's not getting out of the tough situation. It's like working through the tough situation. That's where you grow as a person and as a leader. So yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
Thoughts, comments?
That story you shared, I think it's one of the things that I have to reiterate, definitely with like kids, like probably like 2 or 3 times a week. You know, it doesn't matter how somebody else treats you. That doesn't change who you are. And I think that's, you know, a lot of these tough situations are probably going to be brought on by how somebody else treats us. You know, if it's, like in a deal or, you know, a bank or whatever, like I think it's just, if you have that mindset of, you know, how somebody else treats you doesn't change who you are. And, you know, I think that, you know, trust and respect go hand in hand there. Because, you know, if something goes wrong, or if there's, you know, a hard time, I think it's a combination of, we have to have that trust to know that we're, you know, solid, and we're not going to like, oh, well, it's time to retaliate against that bank or that client. And we have to trust that, you know, we have enough respect for ourselves and each other not to take that course either. But it reminds me of the story of, you know, the 2 guys, and whatever you change it to, you know, snake falls in a bucket of water, or snake falls near a campfire, and one guy reaches in and saves the snake, and the snake bites him, and the other guy says, oh, you should kill that snake. And the guy says, well, no, I was trying to help it. You know, that's just his nature. You know, just because his nature is to bite doesn't mean my nature changes. You know, and it's, you know, basically be true to who you are, sort of scenario.
Yeah, it's a great word, and it's a good reminder for all of us, that there is a natural tendency to want to retaliate. Somebody snaps at you or does something, and it can be a simple little thing, right? But it's counterintuitive to just, you know, go the other direction. And I think that's how you'll build. You know, I've done that many times when I've done wrong things, I've asked people for forgiveness, you know, in this industry, and that's just, it's counterintuitive because everybody wants to be right. So that's the law of respect. So I wanted to walk through this. It's something we all need to do, and leaders, to be here, you got to earn respect, and it doesn't just happen in a Cracker Jacks box. So there you go.